What's going on YouTube? JT Reborn here, and welcome back to another edition of my DC comic book reviews. And in this video, we're going to be talking about Absolute Batman issue number 2. This one is written by Scott Snyder, with artwork and colors done by 2 other artists. Man, I just had it on the top of my head, but I keep forgetting the names. Yeah, so this is the continuation of basically DC's like Ultimate Universe. The first issue was way better than I ever expected it to be. I went into kind of like super low expectations, to be honest. Like, here we go, another Batman book, as if DC doesn't have enough of them. But Scott Snyder pulled off like something I was really surprised that he did, like something really good. Because, you know, Scott Snyder can be very talented, but then there's other stuff that he's written that's just comes a little bit too like convoluted, like his Justice League run and Recent Memory and Death Metal and all that. Just, I wasn't a really big fan of all that stuff. But this is some good stuff. I mean, it's an Elseworlds tale of sorts, because it means the kind of the different universe which was teased in DC All In. If you're going to do like a big alternate universe of sorts, I want it to be feel very different. I don't want it to feel really the exact same thing, because we got the main DC universe going on right now, but this alternate universe, the Absolute Universe, is doing some interesting things with Batman so far. Like they changed the origin of him. Like now, instead of in Crime Alley by Joe Chill, like it's at a zoo, and Thomas Wayne's a teacher. He's not like a billionaire. This isn't a rich Batman. Martha Wayne is still alive, but the way he kind of becomes Batman of sorts, where he kind of gets the inspiration, really happens in the exact same time. Whereas beforehand, his parents are shot in the alleyway. You know, he's in the cave or something. The Bat comes to see him, and then that's where he gets the inspiration to become Batman. Here, it all happens right on the spot, which I thought was really kind of a clever like concept. So when, you know, he was there trying to open the door, he's like, "Dad, please," like, and his dad basically like kind of gave his life to protect his son. When the shooting and that was going off, all the bats kind of swarmed him because he got trapped in the bat house. And the way they kind of almost like a rebirth of sorts, like he was Bruce Wayne, just, you know, a typical kid or something like that beforehand, but then the bats came in and then they swarmed him, and then in that moment, like he kind of like sort of becomes Batman, but not really. But like that's where the implementation of that idea really takes place. It's like during that traumatic moment. So I kind of like how it's super intertwined right from the get-go, as opposed to something that kind of happens a little bit later on. We see him going across the city, beating the living hell out of people. I mean, he turns like stuff in like the water into acid or something like that. This is a very brutal, violent, excessive, over-the-top Batman. He doesn't quite kill, but like he certainly will maim you and just go so far as to like brutalize his opponents to just such ridiculous levels. I mean, like everything in this book is excessive, but that's kind of what I want to see. Like I want something excessive. I want something over the top. I want something that's just kind of fun. And that's where Absolute Batman comes in. So we also have Alfred is kind of narrating over the thing. We have moments with like Bruce kind of talking to Joe Chill, the killer of his father. There's even kind of a funny on the nose moment too, where Alfred finds the safe houses, and it's kind of shaped across the city like as a bat. So yeah, he's a hardworking guy. Gordon, of course, is the mayor during this thing, and Barbara, you know, she works as a cop as well. Her ethnicity is a little bit different too. I think I mentioned that last issue, where she's kind of like mixed race. She almost kind of looks a little bit like a Renee Montoya of sorts, but you know, that's Barbara, and Jim still kind of remains the same. So again, different universe, different takes. So you know, it is what it is. Yeah, so we got that. We also see that like Martha was good friends with Jim Gordon because they were all friends with Thomas in that too. She talks about how she kind of lost her son like that day. He never kind of came back like the same way at all. Always kind of distant, always kind of emotionally distraught. Like, you know, he has some anger issues in that too. Bruce also goes to hang out with his friends who are also like, you know, Batman villains in other universes. You know, you have Edward Nygma, you have Harvey Dent, you have Oswald Cobblepot, and you have Waylon Jones, you know, who would be Killer Croc. So I'm curious to see how, like, you know, Scott Snyder does the flip on these different villain stories, or if they're going to change over the course of it to become his enemies, or they're going to remain friends. Because them being friends, like Harvey at least is one that's, you know, something that really kind of carries over from, you know, the main universe, where Harvey Dent carried, like, you know, friends with Bruce. That's something we've seen before, and then he kind of turns and, you know, Bruce had some sort of connection with him beforehand. But here it's like now you have the other villains, like Riddler, and you have Penguin and Killer Croc and all that. So like, and they're not quite the same as they are in the other universe. So he's out there. Edward, like, he has some bit of technology that Edward's kind of trying to decipher. And then, of course, he's going out doing this thing after the party animals who are just brutalizing and killing everyone across the city. Like, this is a hopeless world. And that's where he kind of runs into Roman Sionis Black Mask, who basically sets a trap for him. He's like, hey, you can either work with me or you can deal with the GCPD and all that, too. There is, like, a file right here of sorts. It's Arc M, so it's going to be, like, I guess, this own take on Arkham. Absolute Batman, look at the size. Like, this dude is just, like, jacked beyond all belief. Alfred's there to kind of talk with him because, you know, he's had orders to kind of take him out, but Alfred kind of wants to, like, initiate some sort of partnership of sorts to kind of work together to kind of take some stuff down. But then we also get this version of the Batmobile, and now we've seen the Batmobile in other versions. Like, this version of the Batmobile is, like, basically like one of those construction-type vehicles, and it is so over the top. Kind of reminds me of the tank that he has in, like, the Dark Knight Returns, like, graphic novel comic book. It's so excessive, and just look at the cars being flipped around. It looks like one of those vehicles you'd see in, like, Twisted Metal. Like, it kind of reminds me of, like, Minions vehicle in, like, Twisted Metal 2, and it's just so over the top, so gargantuan and gigantic that I just get a little bit of a chuckle, like, every time I see it, because I think it's just really funny. And then, of course, the issue ends with a Selena Kyle tease. So, yes, Scott Snyder wrote this, and Nick Dragotta is the artist, and Frank Martin is the colors, and all that other stuff. So, Absolute Batman issue number 2, I thought this was a really entertaining issue. I think the first issue is still the strongest, but I really like kind of the new take on Bruce's origin, how it's tied in. Like, the Bat stuff happens, like, right on the spot, like, the same day, whereas beforehand, it's something kind of, like, he has a little bit of time to process, and then the symbol of the bats is kind of there, like, intertwined to that too. So I thought that was kind of a really neat idea, like, have it take place at the zoo, have the bats basically kind of swarm him, and, like, he starts out as, you know, that young child right there who's, like, had that innocence, and then the bats kind of swarm him in that moment, and he's kind of rebirthed of sorts to kind of into something else too. And then having Alfred there kind of narrating the issue and kind of watching over this different take on Alfred and the different take on the villains in that too. So like I said, this is an alternate universe, something very distinctly different. Doesn't really share much in terms of ties to, like, what we normally know. I think they're crafting something interesting here with Batman. Now, I haven't read the other Absolute titles like Wonder Woman and Superman, so I don't know the quality of those ones, but I can tell you that Absolute Batman is way better than I thought it was going to be. I think Scott Snyder's got something really cooking right here so far, at least within the first 2 issues. I mean, it could nosedive, but really good stuff. And I know a lot of people really like the first issue. I think it sold exceptionally well. So hopefully that trend continues, because, like, DC needs a big hit book on their hands, I think. And I think having this Absolute universe right here, I think actually is kind of a good idea. It's just a matter of, like, how they can execute it in the long term. So far we're 2 for 2, but I've seen titles start off strong before and then kind of take a nosedive. But Scott Snyder is a talented writer. I don't like everything he's done. I think Dark Knight's Death Metal was just terrible. But, like, he, you know, his run on Batman is pretty well known and well regarded for the most part, and he's written some great stuff in the past. So I'm hopeful that this, you know, level of quality, like, continues on throughout this book, and, you know, we continue to get really good stories, and it just continues to be a fun time. So yep, those are my thoughts on Absolute Batman issue number 2. What did you all think of it? Post your comments down below. Be sure to like this video, share it with your friends, subscribe to the YouTube channel for more content, hit that bell for notifications, all the other fun stuff. And that's it for my DC comic reviews from last week. I know I'm like, I want to get these things out faster, but I missed it. See, if DC would drop these on Tuesdays, I feel like I could have kind of time to kind of cover them a little bit more and get things out there. But I'm just like, I feel like I'm slacking right now, y'all. But that's okay. That is okay. We're going to come back stronger than ever this time. So this week, I think I got, like, I know Detective Comics, I don't know if Detective Comics is out this week. I think Titans is out, but then there's also some Godzilla comic books that are coming out this week. I think the finale to Godzilla Skate or Die, and there's also, like, another Godzilla Rivals book. So I think DC, like, I only have, like, 1 or 2, but then I have, like, 2 other Godzilla comic books. So looking forward to kind of getting those videos out as well, because, like I said, I just love talking about this stuff. But anyways, that's all I have to say. As always, take care now. Bye-bye then, and I will see you all in the next video.